Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings for Tuesday, June 19th. We have a full slate tonight, 15 games on Tuesday. Loaded slate with a lot of pitching options, like always. It seems like we always got pitching options on these big Tuesday slates. That's the case today. We got Verlander, Sale, Clevenger, Cole Hamels, Blake Snell, Barrios, Mike Soroka, Velasquez, Taillon, just Luke Weaver. A ton of pitching options to choose from. A lot of studs, a lot of mid-tier plays. Even some value options that I think are in consideration as well. So pitching got a lot of ways we can go. Got a lot of ways that we can go with the bats as well. Definitely some bad pitchers that we want to pick on this slate. Before we do get started, though, looking at the pitchers and bats for today, like always, guys, make sure you drop a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. And if you have not subscribed yet, if you are new to the channel, make sure you do click that subscribe button down below. So that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. But yeah, so pitcher today, our options over 10K, we got 3 of them. Verlander gets to face the Rays at home. Chris Sale faces the Twins on the road, and Mike Clevenger faces the White Sox at home. Just looking at the matchups for these 3 guys, I like the matchups for all 3 of them. Verlander against the Rays, love that matchup there. Chris Sale against Minnesota probably has the worst matchup, but it's Chris Sale. He's a little bit cheaper than Verlander. We just know the kind of upside that Chris Sale has. And then Clevenger, also get a lot of savings if you go down to Clevenger. He's got a great matchup against the White Sox. We saw him really perform well against the White Sox in his last start. I think all 3 of these guys are in consideration today. I think all 3 of them are playable. But if I have to choose one, I'm going to lean Chris Sale here. I really like Chris Sale. I just think he has so much upside. Like I said, this might be the worst matchup out of the 3, so Chris Sale might actually come at a little bit of lower ownership today than what we would normally see Chris Sale be. He's 12-7, which I think is a reasonable price tag. Last 2 matchups for Chris Sale have been pretty good against Baltimore and the White Sox. He managed to rack up 9 and 10 strikeouts in those outings. This is not as great of a matchup, but still there are definitely some Ks in this Twins lineup. If we look at their projected lineup for tomorrow, only have a 3.3 implied run total, and definitely some Ks here with guys like Mauer, Rosario, not heavy strikeouts, but versus a lefty, their K rates are increased. Robbie Grossman will strike out. Kepler versus lefties definitely has an increased K rate. And then when you get to the bottom of this lineup with Adrianza, Lamar, and Wilson, these just aren't good hitters, and some of these guys will K as well. I think Chris Sale definitely has upside here. I think he could be the highest-scoring pitcher on this slate. Would not be surprised at all. So he's definitely the guy that I'm looking to go to if I have to just choose one of those 3 options. But Verlander is definitely an option if you want to play him. Clevenger, especially in tournaments, if you're trying to get off the Sale and Verlander ownership that I think is going to be somewhat highly owned. Both of those guys I think could carry ownership. Clevenger might go overlooked today, and we've really seen Clevenger show some upside lately. You get some savings if you go down to Clevenger, so definitely like him as well, especially in tournaments. But yeah, then looking at the SP2s, the options that I think are in play today at SP2, Velasquez is probably my favorite play. I'm going to plug him in as my SP2 for today. We'll talk about the other ones, though, quickly. I think guys like Luke Weaver against the Phillies have some upside. I think Taillon actually has upside here at home versus the Brewers. I think there are value plays today with Rodriguez getting a good matchup against the Marlins at home in a great pitcher's park, only 6,700. On the other side of that game, I think Dan Straley in San Francisco, great pitcher's park against a Giants team that strikes out. Straley's been up and down this year, but he's dirt cheap today with a decent matchup, and he's only 6,400. Really like Straley. I think him and Rodriguez, both in that game, are 2 value pitchers you could look to if you're going cheap. Those are probably my favorite values. In the mid-tier, I'm really focused on Velasquez, Weaver, and Taillon, especially Velasquez, though. I love Velasquez here versus the Cardinals, This is a Cardinals team that runs out a lot of righties. If we look at their projected lineup for tomorrow, look at the Cardinals' projected lineup, a ton of righties in this lineup. Only lefties in this lineup are going to be Matt Carpenter and Dexter Fowler. You have 7 righties in the projected lineup, and Vince Velasquez, this guy has really good numbers versus righties, gets a lot of strikeouts versus righties as well. I just think this is a great matchup for him, a matchup where he has a ton of upside. He has already faced the Cardinals this year, picked 6 1/3 innings, allowed 5 hits, 2 walks, didn't allow a run, got 5 strikeouts against them, 24 DraftKings points last time he faced the Cardinals. I think Velasquez could definitely put up a similar outing, if not a better outing than what he had his last time. Velasquez is a guy that has a lot of upside. 25 to 30 DraftKings points is definitely possible here. So I like to go with Sale and Velasquez today. That still leaves you 35.87 remaining per player, which we can definitely work around today. But then looking at the bats, there's definitely value that I like at hitter. We're obviously going to need value paying up for these 2 pitchers. So the first guy I like for value, I think Joey Gallo, one of the best bets today to hit a home run versus Jason Hamill. Jason Hamill is a pitcher that gives up a lot of home runs to lefties. He doesn't strike anybody out. Hamill has a very low K rate versus lefties. If we know one thing that Joey Gallo has a problem with, it is striking out. But he's facing a pitcher that doesn't really have strikeout stuff. So I just love the Rangers today. I wish this game was being played in Texas, but even though it's being played in KC, I still think the Rangers are great options here. A great stack, probably my favorite stack on the slate. Jason Hamill's just not a guy I believe in. I think Sin-Soo Choo, Mazzara, Profar, Beltre, Andrus, I think all these guys are great plays today. Obviously, I love Gallo at 3,900 as a value play. Even if you want to go down to the bottom of that order with Chirinos as a cheap catcher option, maybe even Odor as a cheap second baseman. I just think these guys make so much sense. Hamill sucks, gives up home runs, and the Rangers have a ton of power in their lineup. And obviously, Joey Gallo, a very powerful bat, a guy that has a ton of upside here, could definitely hit one, if not two, home runs versus Hamill. So I like him at first base. You can also play him in the outfield if you want to be flexible and kind of move him around. But then the next guy I like is at shortstop. I love his teammate here, Elvis Andrus. I think Andrus is a great value play versus Hamill. He's got decent BVP, and he has the great matchup as well. So like Andrus here, we look at the BVP. It's a pretty decent sample size. I believe it's 14 at-bats. 6 for 14 versus Hamill, 429 average. A couple of these guys have also hit Hamill well. Beltre, 5 for 18 with a home run. You got Sin-Soo Choo, who is 6 for 16 versus Hamill. A lot of these guys have hit him well, Andrus being one of them. Just a great matchup here. I believe he's coming off the DL. He got activated from the DL on Monday against the Royals, so he's still dirt cheap at 3,600. This is a great matchup for him. Just really like Andrus here. I think he's a great play, cheap option at 3,600 that has a lot of upside. Then my final play is in the outfield. Another really cheap option I like is Chad Pinder. He's only 3,400 today, getting a matchup with Eric Lauer, a pretty bad left-handed pitcher. And if we know one thing that Chad Pinder is good at, it is hitting lefties. We've seen him at times versus lefties this year. Bat second for the Athletics. He is projected to bat second. If we look at their projected lineup, Pinder is in there, 3,400 projected bat second. And he is a value option that I really like here. He's been good versus lefties, has a lot of upside versus lefties, has some sneaky power. He's got decent speed as well. Lauer's just not a lefty that I believe in, a left-handed pitcher that I think is pretty bad. I wish this was a better ballpark for hitters. San Diego's ballpark definitely favors the pitchers. But I still like Chad Pinder here. He's cheap. He's 3,400. He should be batting second with the platoon split. He's been good versus lefty this year, so I think he's a good value option if you're going cheap in the outfield. But yeah, guys, these are my 5 plays for today. Chris Sale, Vince Velasquez, Joey Gallo, Elvis Andrus, and Chad Pinder. These are 5 guys that I like for tonight's slate. 5 guys that I definitely think I'll be plugging into my lineups for tonight. But now if we do want to talk about some stacks and BVP plays on this main slate before we do get out of here. So my number 1 stack for today, pretty much already mentioned it. It's the Rangers here versus Jason Hamill. Hamill's just not a guy I believe in. These guys are dirt cheap. They allow me to fit the pitcher I want. I can play Chris Sale and still play Rangers as well. Obviously, the Rockies are a great stack today versus Jason Vargas, but it's really hard to play Rockies bats with Chris Sale, with Verlander, with Clevenger, just because these Rockies bats are very expensive. If you were to pay down a pitcher and not pay up for those studs, obviously you're probably going to be jamming in some Rockies. But if you're paying up for pitcher, looking for a cheap stack that has upside, I think the Rangers are where you can look to versus Jason Hamill. And then in the other stacks on this slate, teams I'm kind of loading up on, really isn't a lot I love besides the Rangers. I think the Indians, if you want to pick a couple one-offs here and there against Carlos Rodon, you could definitely do that. Like Geyer, if he's batting 5th, he's only 2,800. A really good value if you're paying up for pitcher and you need cheap bats. You could definitely consider Brandon Geyer here. But other than that, not a ton of stacks I love besides the Rangers. They're my number 1 focus on the slate, especially since I want to pay up for pitcher. I need value bats, and that's where they come in. But if you're not paying up for pitcher, definitely go to the Rockies. 6.4 implied run total versus Vargas. They are definitely going to put up runs today. Arenado, Story, these guys are great plays today, but they are also 57 and 5,500. Really hard to fit them in with expensive pitching. But yeah, I think that is it for the stacks for today, guys. Now if we want to go over some of the BVP plays on the slate, just some that really catch my eye. Starting up top here, Hernan Perez, 6 for 15 with 3 home runs versus Jamison Taillon. Freddie Freeman, 4 for 13 with 2 home runs versus Jaime Garcia. Jose Abreu, 4 for 14 with 2 home runs versus Clevenger. Brian Dozier, 12 for 41 with 3 home runs versus Chris Sale. Logan Morrison, 5 for 15 with a home run versus Sale. And Eddie Rosario, 5 for 10 versus Chris Sale. Drew Butera, don't even think he'll be in the lineup, but he's 3 for 11 with the home run versus Hamels. And Whit Merrifield, 3 for 10 versus Hamels. I mentioned some of these Rangers, BVP versus Hamel. Evis Landry, 6 for 14 versus Hamel. Beltray is 5 for 18 with a home run. And Sensu Chu is 6 for 16. And then 2 more plays. Chris Iannetta, 4 for 11 with a home run versus Vargas. And Andrew McCutchen, 7 for 25 with a home run versus Dan Straley. But now looking at the pitchers that have done well in their matchups, got 4 of them. Carlos Rodon, he's done well against the Indians in the past. Indians are hitting him for a .215 average through 149 at-bats. Mike Clevenger done well against the White Sox. The White Sox have really struggled to hit Clevenger, only hitting him for a .209 average through 67 ABs. They've struck him out 23 times through those 67 ABs. Cole Hamels has done well against the Royals. Royals have only hit Hamels for a .206 average through 97 ABs. And then Dan Straley, he has done well against the Giants. Giants have only hit Straley for a .205 average through 88 at-bats. And then the pitcher that's done poorly, Jameson Taillon, he has struggled in the past versus the Brewers. The Brewers have hit him for a .341 average, 28 hits, 10 extra base hits, and 4 home runs through 82 ABs. But I still do like Jameson Taillon, especially as a low-owned tournament play, a play that I think has upside versus the Brewers, could definitely be in consideration if you're playing tournaments today. But yeah, guys, I think that is it for this slate. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, guys. Hopefully it did help you. If you did enjoy, just make sure you give the video a like. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do click that subscribe button down below. And if you have any questions, like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GO, or feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, guys, and good luck tonight on this slate. Peace.